The problem with AI music isn't that it's bad, it's that it's already good enough. I'm FERM, and today I want to explain why that's a much bigger issue than people realize. Recently, a new AI music development came to my attention. The story of Sienna Rose, an artist who landed on Spotify's viral top 50 multiple times, and on the other side of that, the valiant and honorable efforts of the major European streaming platform, Deezer, publicly calling it out as AI generated. I'm going to talk about what's going on here, how I feel about all this, and react to her music, which I have yet to hear. As much as I do use and like the idea of using AI to assist in various workflows, this is where my anti-AI side comes out. When it comes to entirely machine-generated audio, in particular when it is being presented, or at least implied, as real/human. Hit the buttons, leave a comment with your thoughts on the matter. To begin this discussion, I will point out that I'm sitting in front of a clearly AI-generated backdrop, as I will be criticizing AI usage to some extent. Now, I point that out not to preemptively defend from critical commenters, rather to explain the reason why I'm using an AI-generated image as a backdrop, because it's a relevant point. The reality is, I can't afford the time to learn and create such a graphic design myself, nor can I afford to pay a real graphic designer to make an even better and more customized version of this style. I genuinely would prefer if it had the human touch. And this is the very logic for which most people who are not completely against using AI use to justify using AI. Music is a bit different, but that exact sentiment, not enough time, not enough money, is already being perpetuated when it comes to music for similarly auxiliary purposes, such as background music, commercial ad music, intro-outro songs, multimedia stuff. While that's not an extent I feel the desire to go to, it would be a bit hypocritical of me, with my AI-generated graphics, to say, if you use AI music in your content, you're depriving real artists of work. However, that is kind of how I feel, because I myself am a musician. I've been playing guitar since the age of 10. It's all about perspective. If I were a graphic design artist, I would have designed the backdrop myself, and I would be absolutely incensed about the existence of Nano Banana. So perspective is everything. And for me, it's a bit of an inner moral conflict, I will admit. But here we are. If you can't beat 'em, join 'em, as the saying goes. The most horrible and true statement for when new technology meets capitalistic competition. But everyone has their own line in the sand about it, and for most it's probably very blurry at this point. But when it comes to fully AI-generated songs passing off as actual musical works of art from an alleged human, that is truly among the highest of offenses of artistic integrity, I would say, next to outright plagiarism, which many argue is exactly what all generative AI is essentially doing. And there's some truth to that. Also, is artistic integrity even relevant if there's no actual artist behind the art? Anyway, before I go any deeper into the moral philosophy of artistic creation, let's get to the matter at hand. Because my biggest fear about AI music getting more and more indistinguishable, and as it will continue to get more and more indistinguishable as the models improve, has been that it will slowly but surely creep into playlists and recommendations on major streaming services, and casual, passive listeners will be none the wiser that their new favorite artist is not a real person. Enter Sienna Rose. I knew this was probably happening to some degree, especially considering the whole Velvet Sundown debacle from last year, but I was hoping that that would have been a we won't get fooled again type of thing. Yet here we are again. So I learned about Sienna Rose through this article from Tech Radar, published January 23rd, 2026, written by Rowan Davies, and it's titled, "We think it's vitally important to be transparent with listeners and fair to artists." Deezer says viral singer Sienna Rose with millions of Spotify streams is an AI fake. So let's read about some of the stats. The neo-soul singer, love how he's using the quotes there, Sienna Rose has burst onto the scene, earning herself a staggering 3.6 million monthly Spotify listeners and 3 spots in Spotify's viral top 50. Despite this booming success, I hate to break it to you, it's likely that she's not real at all. Notice how the author says likely, and it's going to get even more interesting as we proceed to read further articles about Deezer and what it's trying to do. So they reached out to Deezer for comment, and they replied, "We can confirm that the majority of Sienna Rose's albums on Deezer are detected and clearly tagged as AI generated using our AI detection tool. As AI music becomes more widespread, we think it's vitally important to be transparent with listeners and fair to artists, which is why Deezer removes all fully AI generated tracks from algorithmic recommendations and editorial playlists, so users can make informed decisions about what they're listening to." Deezer so far is the unsung hero of the modern music industry streaming age at this point. And like I said, there's another article that just came out that I want to bring up later that further reveals just how much they care about transparency when it comes to AI music. Let's continue here. So the author writes, "Usually it's quite easy to spot what music is AI generated in streaming services. Release dates and album art are often big clues, but Sienna Rose is an interesting case. At first glance, her music sounds, well, convincing, and it's managed to fool high-profile celebrities including Selena Gomez, who used one of Rose's songs on a post that was later removed." Okay, so now at this point, I'm gonna go to Sienna Rose's Spotify and I'm gonna listen to a portion of one of her songs. I'm not sure how it's gonna work out for copyright, although according to this article, AI generated content and copyright law, what we know, written by Ellen Glover on builtin.com, published January 20th, which ultimately concludes that any fully AI generated song legally should not be able to be copyrighted because there's no real author, because AI is not an author. Alas, here we are at Sienna Rose's Spotify page. 4.2 million monthly listeners, which, might I add, is 600,000 higher than when the article was written, which listed it at 3.6 million. Probably all this press about it is helping her cause. And as you can see, there's no AI labeling whatsoever. Not that Spotify actually does that, but just to emphasize that any average Spotify user that isn't super clued into AI stuff will look at this page and have no reason to think that this is not a real person. They will immediately assume it's a real person, and that's a big problem. So I'm gonna listen to her top song, Into the Blue, it looks like, with 8 million streams, and we'll see how I like it. I have a feeling it's gonna be kind of good. So you got that kind of lo-fi hiss in there, which I think is in a lot of AI things. Your voice is a river. Okay, so right off the bat, a beautiful intro and a wonderful onset into the first verse. But there is that tape hiss in the beginning, may have just been an AI production choice, but there's still something about the vocals that sounds very generically aggregated. As it does, it's, you know, neo-soul. It's using all the famous soul singers' voices and just merging them into one, essentially. And there's this very distinct, hard to kind of describe characteristic of the sound of the vocals. Let's listen to a little more. I close my eyes and drift into your tide. Love feels endless with you by my side. Into the blue, I'm falling with you. Okay, oh my god. Fantastic chorus. The melody, the songwriting is truly compelling and engaging. It feels like, I mean, the whole meme about AI music is really that it has no soul, but in the context of neo-soul music genre, it sounds pretty soulful. And at a certain point, it's going to be so good that it's just going to sound like a human 100%. And if you can be tricked into thinking it's real, the soul is still there, kind of, I guess. I want to finish the chorus and then we'll get back to the information. Weightless and true,
deeper into the blue.
Okay, yep, so the numbers make sense given the effect of the sound and the emotion that it conveys. It's weird that I'm saying that because there's no emotion behind the person, because there's no person, but it kind of achieves that effect. And so you can easily see how millions of people are loving this when it pops into their recommendations or is in a playlist that they're listening to. And again, as of now, not only does Spotify not label anything as AI, I don't believe there's any admittance by the people or person behind Sienna Rose that it is AI. It's just all because the community and then Deezer making all these very accurate accusations. Let's continue into the article because there's a lot more to get into here. Okay, so we left off at Selena Gomez using one of the songs on a post that was later removed. Here it talks about the other signs that it screams AI. Her sound being one indicator that she's adopted from the likes of Alicia Keys, Norah Jones, and even Olivia Dean. So as well as the influx of music she's released, she put out over 45 songs between September 28th and December 5th. Listeners have been quick to flag the generic sound of her songs, reporting bland lyric choices, inconsistent beats, and a telltale hiss in a number of her songs, which are all common tropes found with AI-generated music. I do want to note that bland lyric choices are pretty common in pop music, at least by my standards. Not that sometimes bland lyrics work when the tune is good, but it is also an AI trope, especially when it spans the entire catalog. Let's continue. Then there's her lack of social media presence. When it comes to AI artists, another clue is social media, from which Rose is pretty much absent, but recent videos have surfaced from accounts claiming to be her, like the TikTok video below, which currently has 2.3 million views and is currently unavailable on TikTok. So it's being scrubbed off the internet. Whoever's doing it realized everyone found out that their artist is not real, and I guess they're avoiding public internet attacks. Then the author writes, "What I can't get past is the follower count, 3,867 on TikTok at the time of writing. Very low for TikTok standards especially. Because surely if you were an artist surpassing the likes of popular artists such as Dejo," oh my god, I'm sorry, I've never read that name out loud. I've never heard someone say it. Dejo, A$AP Rocky, and Pink Pantheress in the Spotify charts, you'd be accumulating a rapidly growing online following. It sounds like someone is being very cautious. But there's one video, see below, on the Sienna Rose Instagram account that's the icing on the cake to the theory that her entire existence is AI generated. A video which depicts Rose appearing on a podcast that happens to have no name, social tags, and an unrecognizable host with vacant expressions and wandering eyes. Again, a removed post from Instagram this time. Then he closes out, "The theories pointed in two different directions. Some believe that Rose was a legitimate person who simply uses AI to create music, but more people were convinced that her entire existence was an AI product itself. After giving her music a listen and watching whatever videos I could find of her, I'm siding with the latter, and now we have Deezer's confirmation that sets it in stone." So there's so many implications for all of this. The fact that nobody actually knows for sure if it's a real person is disturbing enough in and of itself. I think we can all safely assume at this point it's not, especially the social media thing. That's like, if you have millions of monthly listeners, you should have amassed at least tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of followers on social media platforms that you would have linked and promoted through marketing, or just on your Spotify profile where allegedly 4 million people are visiting every month. So I don't really think it's a question of is she AI or not at this point. It's more of like, how did this happen and what does that mean for the future as AI music models get better and better at making actually really good songs with a text prompt. I think some of them, people have to make variations. It's not always as simple as typing in a prompt and you have a full awesome hit song. I wouldn't really know. I've only tried it a handful of times in the past. Not that interested in trying it in the future. A big thing about this is the fact that Spotify is not doing anything about it, not making any statements, they're not taking it down, they're not labeling it, they're still letting it be recommended to people, and there's probably multiple people right now discovering her for the first time through Spotify without any deep research and being like, oh, this is my new favorite artist. I bet you that's happening right now. And on top of that, Spotify discovery algorithms, all this are all pretty much driven by neural network AI type things. And then people engage with the AI song, and it's like, oh, people that like this type of song, this type of music, this type of sound, other people should like more, and it's just this infinite. Anyway, let's move on to the second article, which is the best news out of all of this. Published 12 hours ago at the time of this recording by the same author on the same website, TechRadar. The headline says, Deezer just gave Spotify a great opportunity to combat the AI music wave. Here's why the platform is making its AI detection tool available to rivals. I'm just going to read some of the text as written because it's very well written and it deserves to be shared. Deezer is one of the few among the best music streaming services that's actively combating AI-generated music by clearly tagging songs in the app for user visibility. And now it's making its AI detection tool commercially available to rival platforms, which is, not only is that incredibly generous, because that type of technology is something you have to develop over years and on mounds of data. If Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music don't accept that, that just tells you they're making more money by letting the AI music stay on. Little afraid that's what's happening. Continuing. Last year, Deezer rolled out its flagship tool that detects and flags AI-generated tracks after reporting that over 30% of new music on the platform was AI-generated. Great. Now Deezer is offering this functionality to other platforms in the industry, including Spotify, after seeing a great interest in both our approach and our tool, said Deezer CEO Alexis Lantenier. It's a French company, so I'm assuming that's a French last name, and I tried my best to pronounce. With AI singers, quote, singers such as Sienna Rose on the rise, Deezer said in its announcement that it wants to encourage industry-wide transparency. Once again, while it hasn't yet shared details of how it will make its technology available to other services or what it will cost, Deezer is certainly confident that it can do the job. Director of Research at Deezer, Manuel Mosalem, says that according to the company's own tests, the tool has an accuracy of 99.8%. and can detect fully AI-generated music created using models such as Suno and Udio. Additionally, Deezer is doubling down on its efforts to demonetize AI music so that legitimate artists can be paid royalties fairly. One of the main motives behind uploading AI-generated music is to generate revenue streams, and according to the music platform, up to 85% of all streams on AI-generated music are now being detected as fraudulent. So all those streams on Sienna Rose Spotify page, maybe a lot of them are fraudulent, but Spotify is pretty good at detecting those bot listeners, so I've heard. So I don't know. At least Deezer knows and is being transparent about it. Deezer isn't the only service cracking down on AI music. Bandcamp recently banned AI from its service, and it's led to Spotify users complaining that the streaming giant is failing to tackle the rise of AI slop. However, Deezer could run into an issue that Spotify has wrestled with for some time. While Spotify does have its own measures in place to prevent AI music from flooding the UI, there's a reason why it doesn't clearly label AI-generated music in the way that Deezer does. This is down to creative choices on the artist's behalf, which is something that Deezer's AI detection tool doesn't pick up on. Though AI in music creation is generally frowned on by artists, it doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't musicians out there who use it as a creative tool to enhance only certain aspects of a song. Canadian artist Grimes, known for her art, pop, electronic, and experimental music, is just one example of a musician who has openly embraced the use of AI as a way to be creative. Her 2025 song Artificial Angels is an example because, though it's not entirely AI generated, it still has elements of AI generated vocals which bookend the song. But it's not flagged as AI-generated content in Deezer. So while Deezer's detection tool is revolutionary for cleaning out unwanted music that's entirely AI-generated, it may not work in the case of artists such as Grimes, even if listeners want to avoid songs that have even just a smidge of AI-generated elements. So it's saying that Spotify is reluctant to incorporate AI labels because they don't want to take away from the artists who use AI in more nuanced and detailed, small detail ways, which pretty much every artist is now. If you're producing music digitally, you're almost certainly using some form of AI plugin at some point, even if you're not aware of it. But in terms of generative AI, I see the point. I mean, I think artists should be able to use some sort of AI generation in their own music to accent, add flavors, experiment with all these things. And like in my previous couple videos experimenting with LLMs writing melodies, Not that I've used any so far or in the past, although that could never actually detect that because it's just notes. But yeah, shout out to Rowan Davies writing these articles. Shout out to Deezer for being one of the only streaming platforms, music platforms, that's not only detecting and labeling AI songs and speaking up about it, but most recently offering the service of their detection tool to their rivals. And like I said before, if they decline that, you can pretty much assume that Spotify, Apple Music, etc. will lose more money if they start labeling AI music. I don't know. That's just speculation, but ultimately my worry is that even if you do label AI music, and I'm all about labeling AI music, I think music generation platforms like Suno and Udio should have some kind of unremovable digital watermark in the metadata or something that confirms that it's an AI generation and that any streaming platform can detect easily. I don't know if that'll ever happen or people will eventually work around it, but I'm actually worried that people aren't going to care, because if eventually AI music gets so good that it gives you just as good vibes, becomes as compelling as your favorite song ever, potentially starts becoming your most favorite songs ever by far, if AI becomes that good, who knows? I don't know if that's possible, but you never know at this point. What if people just don't care? What if they hear a song on their playlist or in the recommendations and they're listening to it and they're like, I love this song. They look down, it says AI artist or AI song, and they're like, huh, AI makes pretty good music. And then they continue jamming out. What happens then? What happens when Spotify decides, let's have our own in-house song generator so that when people get tired of the music they've been trying to find and listen to, they can just generate new favorite songs on demand? I don't know if that's something that'll happen. I really hope not, but that's where my dystopian fear of the future of music mind goes to, which is a really disturbing thought. What really made me think about the fact that people might not care is not just the idea of imagining that AI can generate an entire song that rivals your favorite song of all time type of thing, but watching Joe Rogan play that AI 50 Cent jazz soul cover or whatever it was to every guest for 10 episodes in a row, maybe more, and him saying it's really good. To his credit, he says, it's bad that it's really good. He doesn't like that machines can make that kind of music, but he admits that it's pretty damn good, and he keeps listening to it and keeps showing people it. So I don't know. AI music is getting really dark and creepy in terms of that potential insidious overtaking of major streaming platforms. I believe there'll be some kind of revolt like what Deezer is doing. Eventually, artists are going to unionize again or something and then start a rebellion, essentially, because it's going to get really messed up. And before I wrap it up, a couple more things to touch on, and I touched on it earlier slightly with the whole soul question, it has no soul, this type of thing. And I get what people mean when they say that, but like I said, with the Joe Rogan thing, the Sienna Rose song that felt very soulful, if you're tuned into it, you can tell, it's not really a human, but again, that deficiency might go away soon. You might truly not be able to tell it's not a human. I don't know. I don't know the technology well enough. I just assume, given the trajectory of all other AI technologies, that it will just keep getting better until it's better than musicians and artists and producers, everyone put together. But what I mean by the soul thing is when a human creates a song, especially when it's a vulnerable, well, most music and lyrics are vulnerable in some emotional sense. They're putting themselves out there. They're sharing their life experiences. With AI, there's no vulnerability. There's no risks. There's nothing at stake because there's no real human behind it. They could say the most outlandish stuff or the most vulnerable stuff, and it lacks that. I mean, that's really where the soul comes from. The actual real risk of putting yourself out there, which prevents a lot of really talented artists and musicians from actually uploading their music to platforms even, or showing them to anyone. I struggle with that myself. And then you got the whole replacing jobs thing, which is already happening in so many other industries with AI, so it's just another problem. And then you got to think in the same way that people did in the 50s and 60s when tape started coming around. Oh, they get this canned music out of here. Let people perform in venues instead of playing music from your damn tapes. There was vinyl before tapes, but it made it more accessible to be played over loudspeakers in an environment without having to hire live musicians. It's this evolution of technology, and then the lines start to become blurred when you really think about it. When drum machines came along, replacing drummers, kind of. Auto-tune, replacing the need to be proficient at singing in the key and having a stable pitch projection and all of these things. Sampling, taking other people's music, crediting them if you're doing it right. Where every step along the way of all those things, people said, oh, this isn't real music, you're doing this and that, you're lazy, whatever. Is this just the next music technology that people end up accepting? I don't believe it is. But when you go through the history, it kind of, all the people at those times in history didn't think everyone would eventually get over it. So I don't know. Is the future of music who can write the best prompt? Everyone's just a prompt engineer? We're just gonna leave that there because I don't even want to think about that. So let's just conclude here and acknowledge what's happening. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Things are getting wild. And I will leave you with a quote from the CEO of Anthropic, who recently published a 19,000-word essay on his blog. And one of the statements he makes is, "Humanity is about to be handed almost unimaginable power, and it is deeply unclear whether our social, political, and technological systems possess the maturity to wield it." I felt like that was the case. I only understand AI on a very cursory, amateur level. This guy's the CEO of one of the major AI companies, and he's saying that. I think we should take him seriously. Anyway, this has been fun. Thank you once again for watching. Peace and love.